Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at something pretty exciting. We have got the Supertest images and a first look at a brand new map. This is shaping up to be the first new map we will see in over 1.5 years, with the last map being Oyster Bay. And the name of this map, Airshipyard, might be familiar to some of you players who have played since about 2021. This map was originally included in some testing called recon mode, where we got to play loads of different maps that were designed, created, fleshed out, and basically get live server gameplay statistics for Wargaming to develop those maps. We have since seen some of those maps, namely Outpost, Oyster Bay, come to the game. However, this was one of those maps which was deemed not fit for the game, not fit to be directly added, and since 2021, Wargaming have been away, completely basically redesigned this map, and the most notable change for this map is it used to be a winter map, so it used to be snowy, and now it is not, it's summer. So, what are the key features of this map? Well, it's quite open, it's quite flat. There are some big hangars, which are familiar to most maps in the game. There are normally some big hangar kind of areas, and that is generally what tends to be the heavy tank area. There are also some open areas, quite a lot of positions on this map that look like tank friendly. There's a lot of holding positions for tank destroyers, and it looks like there's a lot of positions for medium tanks to play in and around on and get funky crossfire into a multitude of positions. So, we've got 10 images here which we've been kindly provided from the Supertest. Let's have a look at them. So, in this first image, we can kind of start to see how the heavy tank, or what is likely going to be the heavy tank, has been fleshed out. And we can already initially see one of the caps. So we're going to call this North. So the one with the blue cap is going to be North. So as you progress through from the south, there's a road and some kind of higher ground on the right. So maybe this is going to be a dangerous cross potentially. Maybe there are some positions over here, especially where TDs, medium tanks can rush forward to and shoot the cross. Definitely light tanks are going to love to play in and around here and spot this heavy cross. So maybe this is a safer cross, so where you can cross down into the city unspotted, or maybe even just spotted but safe. So that's going to be interesting. Looks like there's this kind of rock, so maybe if you're getting shot at, you've got a bit of safety to hide behind. There looks like an interesting sniper position up here, which shoots down into the heavy flank, so that maybe is a good holding position for TDs. For example, if the southern side have lost the heavy flank, there's a bush here, and also, interestingly, a bush here. So maybe there's some funky holding positions. But initially, for the heavy flank, looks like there's going to be a couple of different ways you can cross down into the heavy flank. There's some initial buildings, so maybe this is going to be a line of progression, which is what we like. So say, for example, the northern team has won the heavy flank and the southern team falls back. Looks like there's going to be some progression, so they can progress from this factory into this factory or hangar, whatever you want to call them, and then from here into the houses. But because there's progression for the team that may have won the flank, there's also progression for the team that have lost the flank, because they can fall back to a multitude of different ridge lines, rocks, buildings. Yeah, it looks pretty nice. Obviously, we don't quite have an image on here of what the inside of the hangars are going to look like, but we can see some initial positions starting to flesh themselves out, some kind of side scrape peak angles, some potential hull downs. It's looking interesting. It's looking exciting. It's definitely going to be, I'd say, the heavy tank flank, because there's a lot of like hull down, side scrapey positions where you're going to need armor to play, but it looks like there's quite a few angles of fire into this heavy flank. Say, for example, from these bushes here, maybe from some of the ridge lines back here in the cap, which can shoot down. Yeah. Let's have a look at the other images and see what they're saying. So we have an image here of between, we're going to call it a factory. It looks like some kind of like munitions, arms factories. Looks like we've got some tank hulls and a giant missile here, which is interesting. And we can kind of start to see there's some progression between the two factories. We can see what looks like to be a hull down behind, this kind of building area here where you can push up to, side scrape off, and fight against these tanks here. That looks interesting for sure. And here we go. This is a really nice image of what is likely going to be the more medium tank, light tank TD playground. You know, maybe you could take some faster heavies over towards this rocket, but it's likely going to be mainly for TDs. And as we can see, this image kind of fleshes out the middle of the map. We're going to be seeing lots of bushes, lots of raised ground, and positions where TDs and light tanks are going to be definitely playing. So there's a couple of positions. I think there's 3 positions I want to point out here that are going to be notable, I think, for light tanks. So you're going to have this ridgeline here, which is definitely going to be, I feel, an initial light tank position. Rush forward, spot what is crossing from the cap towards the heavy flank, and same for both sides. There's going to be this kind of rock here, and this kind of like general position. Looks like there's going to be an aggressive bush here, which can be taken from the northern side, but not as much of a position from the southern side. So maybe this rock here is going to be an interesting place to play. Looks like there's maybe some trees you could shoot down and use as cover. So that's going to be interesting. And then the other position for light tanks, I feel, is going to be this kind of building here with the trees, and then this kind of lower ground here in the water with the bushes here and the bushes here. I feel these are going to be pretty common positions that we're going to see light tanks to play, because I believe this map, because it's gone to the super test, we might see it as part of a recon mode sometime soon, so live players can test it. These bushes are going to be interesting because they're likely going to be able to spot kind of crossers, TDs sitting on ridge lines, medium tanks playing around here, and same for the other bush, really. Going to be interesting. Then for TDs, there's a couple of positions I want to point out. There's this rock here with these bushes. That's definitely going to be an important position. There's going to be this house here with the bushes and the trees around it. That's definitely going to be a position of note. And then there's also this kind of like rock tree position here, which is maybe going to be a position for more heavily armored TDs to kind of progress down to and kind of cover the kind of rocket area. And then just some positions for medium tanks that I think are going to be quite interesting. We don't quite see in this photo what the cross is going to be like across this side of the map towards the western flanks. Remember, this is north, east, south, west. And in and around the rocket, but this area over here by the rocket is looking really interesting. Looks like there's going to be some kind of like a tunnel, similar to that, the harbour themed map. Its name's just slipped my head. Definitely going to be some kind of like a tunnel that's maybe interesting to play. Looks like there's some positions around the top side as well where you can maybe use your whole gun depression. There's some trees, some bushes. Yeah, it's looking pretty interesting. And here we've got another image, kind of looking, I believe, from the cap area of what would be the southern team. So you can kind of see some TD positions. You can kind of see across to this building here, which I think is going to be quite a big TD kind of hotspot. You can kind of see down into the water area where there's some bushes for lights to kind of play. Yeah, this is quite a picturesque image. I wouldn't be shocked if we don't see this as like a thumbnail for a video or something at some point. And here we go. Here's a nice little image of the medium tank side, or what I would call the medium tank side. We can see some holding positions back here, some initial aggressive rocks, so you can take across the top side. Looks like there's going to be some kind of a brawling position up here, so maybe quick medium tanks, maybe you could take a few medium tanks up there. If you win it, you have the high ground, which can obviously shoot down on anything that tries to progress through for both teams. That might be quite a key position alongside this tunnel area here, which gives pretty easy passage by the looks of it through underneath the rocket kind of area. This area down here is likely going to be a bit of no man's land, really. Nobody's going to really cross across this because of the TD coverage, the light tank coverage, but it does give a kind of playground around here for light tanks to play, behind this building maybe, in and around these trees, these bushes, these rocks. Going to be some interesting positions there, I'm sure. And here we go. Here we've got a nice image looking down, I believe, from just this area up here, which is, as I said, going to probably be quite an important position. We can kind of see the kind of terrain heights, so you can see how this is probably going to be an interesting area to play in and around this kind of building, these trees, this rock. You can see into the tunnel a little bit. How this might be quite an interesting position here. You know, you can play off here and maybe shoot down into mid of any medium tanks that are playing over here. That might be quite interesting. Obviously, if you do that, you'd leave the tunnel free. But as we can see, there are positions which do cover the tunnel. So there's quite a few different angles of fire. Quite a complicated position, I'd say. But for medium tanks, quite a large area to play. Definitely lots of angles of fire. Definitely lots of interesting rocks, hold positions. And once again, there's progression. So I like that. You know, you can push out the tunnel to this rock. However, there's a bit of a dead man zone here, kind of as you push out the tunnel, but maybe instead you don't push out of the tunnel. Maybe you push across the top. And as I said, I feel like this position up here might be really strong. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this does see some reworks, because I feel like this has way too many lines of fire down on anything that pushes through. But interesting. We can see here, I believe, a view of the southern cap. So we've got confirmation that this is definitely where the cap is going to be. We can see some initial bush lines, kind of the route that tanks will take down in towards what I said might be an interesting early light tank position. The route down towards the city down here. So it looks like it's going to be downhill. However, I wouldn't be shocked if we don't see some tanks drive through this bush straight down here and flip their tank. That would be very funny. But I wouldn't be shocked at all. But there's a bush line here, which definitely looks like it's going to be a final last stand hold position. If the enemy has won the city side and they're pushing into your cap, maybe you could make some interesting holds here, because it looks like it's kind of on a ridge line as well. So maybe something where you could knock these trees and kind of double bush. And then we've just got some general footage of pushing out of the factory, the hangars, towards the northern cap. So you've pushed out, you can see how they can fall back and use this ridgeline here. This is definitely going to be a strong position. So if the southern side wins the heavy tank flank, this position here for TDs is going to be very fun, because, you know, to push out, you kind of have to cross the open. Push out, you kind of have to cross the open. This position's really strong. However, it does look, if you are able to cross and get to here underneath, you are going to then be able to, you know, pretty easily screw with this area. So that's kind of interesting, I guess. But there's progression, I guess. Just say, for example, you're losing, you can fall back, playing in around these buildings, play up and around here. But I feel like this position's maybe a bit stronger than the other side. So the southern cap hold on the city side. But once again, maybe these bushes don't give very good camo. Maybe they, you know, once you get spotted in them, there's lots of things that can shoot you. So maybe that rebalances them. We don't quite have the full picture yet. And then I believe this is the final image, or sorry, the second to last image, which kind of just gives us an overview of the entire map. So we've got what is going to be probably the northern cap here, the southern cap here. You can see the medium tank flank and how it works, see kind of how you'd get there from both sides. Looks like maybe the southern cap has a slightly quicker route in towards the rocket, but the northern cap has a quicker route into the city. So kind of trade-offs, I guess. You can kind of see the holding positions for the caps, the positions where Artie's likely going to play. Yeah, I think it's quite a pretty looking map. It's quite clearly set in some kind of like Alps kind of area, European Alps. It's quite beautiful, quite pretty, quite green, quite picturesque, and the Wargaming art department do know how to design a damn pretty map, and this looks like they're going to have an absolute whale of a time with this map, because the amount of like reflections in the water, the different colors you can add, yeah, it's going to be quite a pretty map in my opinion. And maybe we do have the reactive maps now, obviously, where we've got the live events that happen in the maps, trains crashing, planes crashing. Maybe there could be a rocket launch. That might be quite cool. Maybe there's a rocket launch that kind of destroys anything over here, and you get to see a rocket fly off into the sky. That could be quite cool. I don't know. We'll have to see, I guess. But, yeah. This map is looking pretty cool. Obviously, its central feature is this giant missile, this giant space-esque rocket, which is kind of cool, I guess. And as I said, the art department, I can just tell, are like salivating at the thought of being able to design a map with a giant rocket in it in the middle of mountains. Like, yeah, it's going to be quite a pretty map. And in my opinion, it's definitely looking like an interesting map. I like this rework, don't get me wrong. The original map was pretty tough. There were lots of open spaces to cross towards any flank. You had to cross through the open. The progression wasn't there. It was very clearly not going to work, and that's why we've seen them go away, clearly rework this map. They clearly believe this map could be something, and they've presented to us this latest version, which in my opinion is looking like a good start. You know, there are definitely some positions I feel are a lot stronger than others. There's definitely some positions that I feel are going to be pretty detrimental if a team wins it. But, you know, there should be positions like that. Not every map should be a complete 50-50. There should be some positions that are slightly stronger than others, as long as they don't dictate the style of game and dictate the total game if they're lost or won. But what do you think about this map? Do let me know down in the comments. Let's have a think about when we might see it. I have a feeling probably 2025, probably mid to late 2025, and I imagine we'll probably see a few iterations of this. But yeah, do let me know down in the comments what you think about this map. If you did like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out the video and the playlist that are on the screen now, and I'll see you all in the next one.